never told that I was a victim, ever. And now everybody's a victim. When I was speaking in Oklahoma, they don't even have a statewide Democrat in Oklahoma. That's how red Oklahoma is. And this young girl in the audience, she was 18 years old, and I could tell she was dragged there by her parents. I remember those days. But she stood up towards the end of the meeting. She just said, Miss Karen, I really must say, it was so brave of her, because she was the youngest one there, and here we are talking about stuff that probably most people don't understand, like the debt and that kind of thing. But she goes, I am afraid to have children in this economy. She was 18. I wish I was half as smart as I thought I was when I was 18. There wasn't anything I thought I couldn't do. And when I was studying Russian in Texas and Austin at the time, nobody spoke Russian, so we had to import nationals to Texas to teach us the language. And there was something different about them. And it wasn't the color of their skin. Something in their hearts. It was something they didn't have that we just knew we had. They didn't have this Americana. They were not, see, what Barack Obama didn't understand is what American exceptionalism really is. He didn't get it. He didn't understand it. It wasn't in his soul. And, that's what I saw up close and personal with these Russians. Wasn't in their soul. They didn't have that thing that was American. And, Thomas Sowell, do y'all know who he is? Yeah, brilliant. He is out on the Stanford campus with Condoleezza Rice and where my sister went to college. And he said, and I don't know if anybody's been to the Stanford campus. Anyone ever toured that campus before? Okay. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, but is that not one of the most beautiful campuses that you have ever seen? And it is just palatial. I mean, heaven is going to look a little like that campus. And so here you are, and Stanford is now ranked as the #1 school in the country. Yay, past Harvard with its goofiness. So, and Thomas Sowell said that Stanford graduates are coming to him worried about the future. This is an amazing, beautiful campus. It's in California. It's never too hot, it's never too cold. It's, but they're worried about the future. If you can't think that you are just the cat's meow graduating from the #1 school in the most amazing country in the world, what are we really doing to ourselves? Right. What's happening? So I said, you know what, Karen? Couldn't my story start today? I was at a breakfast with Carly Fiorina on Friday, and she goes, in her travels, she said, there is a disquietness with everyone that she meets. I was speaking in Miami, and last week, on my flight back, I was sitting next to this woman. I knew she was a hippie. I mean, they have to just, you can always tell. They always got the little ponytail, 3 different earrings on one ear, that kind of thing, something tie-dye on. And so I told her, I said, yeah, I'm just leaving Miami from speaking about my book, Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. It was the beginning of the flight. If it had been, at the end, I'm sure she would have moved and just like, how could, that kind of thing. But so I was telling her about, tell me, she was like, I'm progressive, whatever. And so we were stuck there on that flight together, and I just started asking her these questions. Like, you realize that we are destroying more companies than we're creating today. You realize that? Oh, see, they don't know the truth. I said, you realize that we are north of 17 trillion dollars in debt. And most Americans don't even know how many zeros are in a trillion. You realize that we have 50 million Americans and probably 40 million illegal aliens, but I digress, but 50 million Americans on food stamps. It's not the America that when I sat there with Ronald Reagan and he hugged me, that he promised me. And when I became the #1 person at Bank of America, and some people would always say, aren't you surprised? Aren't you blah, blah, blah? How did that happen? And I always tell people, because I worked harder than everybody else at that company. You know, people would always say, thank God it's Friday. I said, thank God it's any day, because I was always working. So, but now, people are told that they're a victim. They're told you can't do it. They talk about the rich like they stole the money. They don't, they talk about, the blacks are told whites against them. Hispanics are told that everybody else is against them. And, it's this world of division and divide. And we all, it's in the Bible, and even Abraham Lincoln said it, that a house divided cannot stand. And, we have some really troubling times. So everywhere I go, I always ask 3 things. I'm going to ask those 3 things of you. Take questions if that's okay. The first thing that I always beg of everyone is to please join me and others and start praying for our country. And I don't mean thank you. And I don't mean just like, when someone sneezes and you say, oh, God bless you. Truly, honestly, and intentionally start praying for America. See, what people don't, or sometimes we forget that America, and for those of you who are historians and study history, there's never been anything like America. Now, of course, the Bible says that Solomon was the greatest and wisest king. But America has been the wealthiest and most amazing country in the world, in history. And we are losing it our time. And if we turn back to him with a capital H, he promised, and he can do anything but lie, that he would heal our land. And our land needs healing. The second thing that I beg of you to understand, beginning today, that I cry when I tell everybody, I'm not a black American, I'm not an African American, I'm just an American. And you're not a white American, you're not a Hispanic American, or Asian American. It's insane. If we could be Americans in Russia when we were in the Olympics just a couple of months ago, we can be Americans at home. We don't have to play this silly game of dividing ourselves. We are American first and foremost. And when I was speaking in Arkansas, a man stood up and he said, well, Karen, what do we say when people try to come out and say those things like we're racist? Well, the first thing I said, you have to come back with telling person, like when Juan Williams was there, and if I was on that panel, I would have turned around to him and said, you know what, Juan? I just see you as an American. I don't see you as a black American. We have to stop saying that, because that's not who we are. See, our history is so intertwined, people get all caught up in lies and they don't even understand the real history. People forget that the first person that died for our amazing flag was a black man named Crispus Attucks. People forget that there were more white men who died putting black slaves. We get so caught up in all the goofiness and the nonsense, and because of the division. And when we start dividing people and putting them into holy huddles, then people start feeling, oh, I've got to defend this. There's a guy I've been having all these debates about because his last surname is Hispanic, he thinks he has to be, open up the border to every person that comes across our border. And I just told him, do we not have a right, like every other nation, to have a border? Why are we even having that discussion? But we can only have that discussion when we start telling people, I don't see you as Hispanic, honey. I just see you as non-American. If you want to be an American, there's a process and make it happen. But don't just come over here and tell me that I have to, we're already in debt. Who thinks we're not in debt? Are you kidding me? We had in Dallas, Texas, one of the candidates that's getting involved with our county judge because he was trying to bring in all of these illegal immigrant children into our, see, they try to do things emotional. You know, they're not telling you that a lot of these kids are gang members. They're not telling you a lot of these kids have diseases. They're not telling you that there is a way to have this done legally. They're not telling you that not all of them are coming from Central America. They're not telling you that there's a lot of stuff coming over that we don't even understand. They're not telling you that there are thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people who have died at the border because of the Mexican cartels. They're not telling you that over 50% of these kids who are being brought over here, you will be paying for. And I've told people so much, look, if you are so empathetic to those kids over there, I have no problem with you getting your own money, going out there, setting up an orphanage, and taking care of those kids yourself. But don't send me the bill, you know? And one of the things that we have started remembering, like Rhonda said, and Rhonda, thank you for what you're doing, but when you said, this is the Fed problem, well, who hires the Fed? We are the people that put the government in place. We have got to start taking our power back and stop going into all this goofiness that keeps people divided because no one wants to be called a racist. So when you go out there and you talk to those people and you say, well, I was told that the Tea Party is racist, you just say, well, you know, there's a black woman who came and spoke to our event just whenever. Start letting people know so they can start cracking that code. The third thing that I implore you to begin today is start believing, start understanding that everybody that you meet is conservative. Everybody. People don't the reason we used to say, or is it, you know, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. They're no longer self-evident. People don't understand what freedom means. And sometimes you don't know how important freedom is until you lose it. Going back to my trip to Miami, because it was just last week, and how they have the magazines that are sitting in and on the airplane in the back. Well, I'm like, you know, it's a long flight, I'll read it. This is before I was heading over there. And the story was about this woman, Nicole Keeler, K-E-A-R. And it was about her story. She wrote this at 34, but when she was 18 and she was a sophomore at Yale, she found out that she was losing her sight. And that she would be blind by the time she was 35. And she is writing about her life story. And of course, she talks a little bit about the loss of sight. You know, at this time that she's talking about it, she has no peripheral vision. She can't see very far and that kind of stuff. But mostly what that article was about was how when she realized she was losing something so precious that she better get out and see the things